We and please note that if you're on mute, please take yourself off mute. If you want to contribute, it should be on your bottom left side of your screen. So let's go ahead and begin with a roll call of our voting members. City of Tucson,
Here,
thank
Rhett
you.
Cranichild.
Thanks, Rhett. City of South Tucson,
Present.
all right, thank you. Tohono O'odham Nation, Pasquayaki Tribe, Pima County,
I'm here.
all right, thank you. Town of Marana,
Here, Lisa Schaefer.
thanks, Lisa. Town of Saharita, and lastly, Town of Oro Valley.
Mike Alexander and present.
All right, thanks, Mike. All right, so we have a quorum, so we can definitely proceed with the meeting. So we will jump on over to agenda item number 2, which is our in-kind form. Regional planning efforts are enhanced by recording time donated by attendees, volunteers, and participants. PAC collects data on the time dedicated to meetings and activities to apply for use of matching funds for grants and federal dollars. If you are paid with federal dollars, please let us know now.
Preston, this
Yes.
is Davita. When you look at attendance, you see my name twice, but the second one is Michael Oglesby for the attendance list.
Got you. Okay, we'll make a note of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm flying under the radar, Preston.
Got you. All right. Happy to have you on this call.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Davita, for that. And with that, I'll also mention that time spent in preparation for this meeting will be estimated by PAG staff who are knowledgeable of the agenda and meeting materials. At the conclusion of this meeting, the session report will be automatically calculated, and your time spent at this meeting will also be calculated. Time spent working on PAG RTA initiatives, programs, and special projects may also be eligible for consideration for matching funds. So with that, if there aren't any questions, we can move on to agenda item 3, which would be the TIP amendment for fiscal year 25 FTA and STBG flex apportionment changes. There is an action that will be needed, which will be
Hey, you
Yep, we
just went quiet. Sorry, can you unmute yourself?
Oh,
Thank-
that was weird.
thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I
It's-
don't know why that happened.
It's also got you listed as Michael. Unless I'm seeing something.
Yeah, I guess I'm
Yeah.
making it now. Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Now it's back. Okay.
here we are. Okay. Maybe there's
Technology.
something going on internally on our end, just getting everyone figured out. Okay. So hopefully y'all can hear me. I will, I guess, start from the top for agenda item number 3. So this agenda item is for TIP amendments for fiscal year 25 FTA and STBG flex apportionment changes. There is an action associated with this item. Once we have gone through our discussions over the financial adjustments for the TIP projects, we will want to recommend these changes over and provide those recommendations to the Transportation Planning Committee for their review and approval, and then eventually to the RTA board for their final approval. To provide a little bit of background information, we'll be reviewing the revised TIP transit project funding adjustments only for fiscal year 25, and we'll be making any changes needed to balance the programmed budget and to remain within fiscal constraint. All revised project applications, as well as the programming request table, which has all the applications compiled together, were included in the packet that was emailed out to all members on January 8th. So you should have access to that and have hopefully had a chance to review before the meeting. Funding levels and any needed prioritization will be discussed at this meeting, and staff on our end will make any necessary adjustments to the funding levels prior to final recommendation for approval. So at this time, the city of Tucson is the only jurisdiction, to my knowledge, that has requested additional funding for their projects for fiscal year 25. And right now, we're currently only at an excess of $20,949 for that for fiscal year 25. So that's the amount of funding that will need to be reduced in order to meet fiscal constraint. So we're not that far off. It should be a relatively quick meeting, I hope. But we'll be talking about that a little bit later on. And then again, like I mentioned, once we've discussed and have agreed to the funding amounts on our end and everything is aligned fiscally, we'll move the amended list of projects over to the Transportation Planning Committee, or the TPC, for their review and approval. So I'd now like to hand it over to our management analyst, Thomas Robertson, to provide any additional details that I didn't cover on this matter and make any adjustments needed in real time to meet fiscal constraint so we can get this reviewed and recommended for approval.
Of course. Thank you, Preston, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking times out of your busy days to come here today so we can get this all figured out and get this done quickly and efficiently. So as Preston stated earlier, the only changes requested were from the city of Tucson. So all things considered, this should be a fairly quick process. If I can share my screen momentarily, let's bring up the form. So as we can see here, the areas highlighted in yellow are going to be the funding amounts that are changed for this year. For this process, given it is a non-TIP development year, we are only focusing on the changes for 2025. Changes for future years are going to be taken into account either later this year or next year when we are in our TIP development cycle. It's been a process of understanding of how we are working through this cycle to make sure that we are doing everything within the correct boundaries. So with that in mind, if we can settle, Rhett, are you there? Oh, perfect, you are. So with that in mind, the main points to account for would be the close to $20,000 that we are slightly over budget. Otherwise, everything else is within constraints.
Thank you, Thomas. If I may address that
Of
amount.
course, by all means.
What we would like to do is take that 20,000 and change and take it out of our preventative maintenance for SunTrans, Sunvan, Sunlink. It's 68, TIP ID 68.03.
Yep. 003. Okay, then. And that's listed for 5307. Would you want that to then be changed to 5339 or?
I think we're okay with it whereas it sits.
Okay, then. Okay, so for this value, you want the 21,000 deducted. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that would then pull out 21,000 there. Make sure we're doing this all correct. And then remove that value. Okay, and then that evens out. And then only other issue is that you are slightly over by less than 1,000 on 12, let's see, 12.22 state of good repair. Would you like to reduce that by 1,000 or?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Actually, if I may, sorry. Hey, this
Of
is
course.
Adam on the program and policy team. We historically, for TIP programming exercises, will round up to the next 1,000, just to allow for enough headroom so that every single penny can be spent. Round up errors are not actually errors. That's just a function of the TIP system while we still remain in a place where we truncate it and round. Good news, at some point in the future, we will be addressing that and trying to program in just full whole dollar amounts. But for now, that roundup is okay as long as it's within 1,000.
Perfect. Well, that is settled then. Then we are within budgets.
Great. That was easy. Okay.
Yeah.
So I assumed it would be, so I'm happy to see that. Are there any comments, questions, concerns related to these adjustments? Are all jurisdictions okay with what is currently being proposed for these adjustments for fiscal year 25?
Can I, Thomas, sorry, just to ask a question real quick. I'm noticing on the green available 5307 funding line that it might be showing that there's a little bit left or an overage.
Yes,
Is
let's
that
see. No, that is not there prior. I think that happened just when I was removing the 21,000 and moving it. That might just be an error on terms of the Excel sheets.
okay?
But
Okay,
as long as the 21,000 is adjusted for, it would be within budget,
thanks. Just wanted to make sure.
of course.
Okay, so we are within fiscal constraint right now.
Mhm.
Currently. Okay. All right. Well, that works. It sounds like there were no comments related to these adjustments, so it sounds like everyone is in agreement. The next step would just be to get a motion to, I guess, recommend approval for these projects to the Transportation Planning Committee for their review. So if I could get a motion for this item.
Hey, real quick, sorry, Thomas, how much did you reduce the bus replacements,
Oh,
471?
let's see. 471 bus replacements, 192 by 21,000.
Okay, that may create an issue there. Isaac, Michael, that number, I think we backed into it so we could actually order that number of buses. So if we reduce that, it may inhibit our ability to
order buses,
yeah.
Okay, then that
Yeah.
was the 21,000 that was initially programmed over budget that you then said we're okay removing from let's see,
Preventative maintenance.
preventive maintenance. Okay, then let's see, probably add that back then.
Yeah, put it back
Maintenance.
there and take it. Can you take it out of preventative maintenance?
Should be able to. Yeah, so let's see, 1618, is that the correct one? Or 6803?
It was 6803.
Okay, so take out the 21,000 and you want to add that back in.
Yes.
Okay, to 5339. Replacements. All right.
Hey, everybody. Sorry. So 5339 is hard capped at 1.9 million. So there, we
Okay.
can't add it back to the fund type that's 5339. You have three different 471.00. So you'll need to look at adding it potentially to the 5307.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can still do it. It can still stay in bus replacements. It will need to come out of the 5339 line and add into the 5307 line. So exactly what you're doing, just two rows down, Thomas.
Perfect.
Thanks, Adam.
Okay. From there, and then that breaks it, of course.
But
Alright.
we still accomplish the same thing, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Adam, I know
your total pie won't change. It's just how big each slice is. It's just to
Yep.
make sure that we don't because
Should
if we go
there.
over 1901, we're not in
Right.
constraint.
Yep, and just to hear you correctly, on 2703, you're removing the 21,000 from there. Is that correct? The
So-
Sunvan replacement vans, you said 2 lines down?
Sorry, just, so we are reducing the 5339 by the 21. That will get us to the 1.901. That is a portion and keep us in fiscal constraint. And then if you wouldn't mind, the 5337, which isn't the line you're on, it's G12, if I'm not mistaken. That way,
Okay, preventive maintenance.
one more. Sorry, I said 12 and I meant 11. We're keeping it all on bus replacements.
Okay, so we're taking out the 21,000. Keeping bus replacements, and then you said you want this, let's see, row
Thomas,
9 to then be
Thomas,
the
sorry, the
19.
other way. Before you do that,
Mhm.
you subtracted 21,000. We need to add 21,000 to the
Okay,
line
then.
that you did.
Adding 21,000. Got it.
And then subtract 21,000 from
Yep.
line 8, I guess.
8.
Yes. So sorry. Line. Could you potentially zoom the screen for old eyes?
Certainly. I don't see why not.
Well, we're gonna restore the bus replacement funding, right?
So
So row 9 needs to be subtracted 21.
Okay.
And I think we can always have a good faith understanding with the members of this working group that if there are small errors, if we agree both in the concept and we know that everything's supposed to align and come down to zeros, we can always, make sure that the local matches work to that end and things like that.
Okay, with that in mind, are there any other adjustments, or are we all okay with these adjustments?
If I may, Thomas, just to jump in, Jamie Brown with PAG. Do we want to double check the summation just to make sure we're not over programmed? It did look like we were in the red.
Sure. So yeah, this value here, that didn't look correct to me in terms of, I think there's more of an issue just with how this is programmed in the Excel sheets, because when I last checked, everything was up to budget besides the 21,000. So let's see, 22, 2 million, okay. Yeah, so what happened here? I think when moving everything around, the sum of $200,000 got changed. Adam, do you see anything?
I mean, without comparing, I mean, the only thing I could recommend potentially is just select all the cells that have 5307 just to start. And we can just use the Excel's auto sum total with control. And so then potentially we can just see and verify that we're at that 22 million for 5307.
Yeah, looking at like 22 instead of the 20. Oh, there we go. 22 million, 22,211. Okay, what happened there?
So we are 210
because that was not there
somehow.
prior. Something got moved along in the last few minutes. Okay, what happened there? Apologies as I asked for your patience real quick. Let me just make sure I have this correct. I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment to make sure I have the correct values up.
I mean, this is the thrill ride that we all look forward to when we do live edits on a on a public meeting.
316.
I guess the good news while Thomas is working, it sounds like conceptually we're in a good place. We have a very nearly and almost there constrained plan. From the perspective of the jurisdictions, it sounds like we didn't have any comments, so we're really close. I do believe.
No, and I do apologize. In the original email, everything was within constraints, so something changed within the past 10 minutes or so that caused that error to come up. As I am comparing now with the original 147, 56, 722, 1901, 643, 547. I see what happened now. Okay. I do apologize for the confusion. When I was changing values, I pulled out 200,000 that was subtracted originally from, share my screen real quick. Let's see, from this value here, I mistakenly re-added 200,000 that was originally removed, thinking it was there for something else. Okay. And with that in mind, we're now back within constraints. And this was this value here. Originally 210,000 was taken out. I mistakenly thought that was 21,000 and removed that instead of the 21,000. And that's my mistake, and I do apologize. However, with that in mind, we're now back within constraints, and this is the correct form as was submitted.
Great. Thank you, Thomas, for making those edits. All right. So it looks like these are the final numbers that we will be requesting approval for. Are there any comments? Do you need a little bit more time to review before making a motion to recommend approval for this?
Nope, not on my end at least. Just any of the committee members have any statements, comments, concerns?
No, I believe we cross-checked it and it looks right now.
Looks good.
Okay. Wonderful.
Perfect.
All right. Yeah, so if I could just get a motion from a member to recommend approval for this agenda item.
This is Rhett Crown's City of Tucson motion to push forward with the recommended item number with the reallocated funding sources for the 25 tip.
Okay. Thanks, Rhett.
Lisa, I'll second.
Thanks, Lisa. All right, so we have a second for this motion. Are there any additional discussion items related to this before we move forward with a vote?
This is Mike with Town of Oro Valley. Just I guess a comment. This is for FY25, and we're 7 months into FY25. So I was just concerned about timing of this adjustment.
Adam or Thomas, did you want to comment on that?
Sure. The good news, and Michael, thank you for your patience through this whole process. As most folks on this call will understand, we've experienced some interesting delays as it relates to air quality conformity determinations, both with the tip and then in the RMAP cycle. And we've just had a lot of extra background information that we needed to get straight before we could move forward with the transit working group. So again, thank you for that. The good news about FTA apportionments is that they don't expire in the year that they're issued. There is a nice long tail. And I'll have to double check to quote, but it's at least 3 years to 5 years, depending on the fund source. So the money's not losing as soon as we roll into fiscal 2026. And it is our intent, once we get on the other side of these AQ determination complications, to make this a little bit smoother, a little bit more seamless. But duly noted, Michael, we do understand that there could, be a little bit of concern on that side, but the money will be in the bank for quite a while, ready for you to use.
If I may just add too, we did take some time last fall to coordinate with the City of Tucson, the direct recipient for the 5307 funds, as well as FTA staff to clarify some requirements outlined in an FTA circular for the program of projects. So we didn't want to proceed until we had those conversations. We want to make sure we do it right. That said, I think we have some ideas of how we can do this earlier in the fiscal year next time during a non-tip cycle year. So appreciate those comments. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Adam and Jamie, for providing that additional clarity, and Michael for asking, requesting more information on this. Were there any other comments before moving on to a vote for this motion? All right, hearing none, I will now move to make a vote on this motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right. And all opposed, say nay. All right. It appears that this motion's been passed unanimously. So I appreciate that. And with that, we can move on to agenda item number 4, which will just be adjournment. So are there any additional announcements for the good of the group before we adjourn this meeting? All right, doesn't sound like there are any. So if there are no other announcements, I'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting. So thank you for participating and have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Thank you. You too.